Thank you very much. I would like to thank APDC for the invitation addressed and thanking everyone for listening to me, which doesn't really happen. It doesn't happen much at home. So my name is Pedro Nogueira Silva, Head of Digital Experience Entity Data, and I'm going to speak to you about a topic which is dear to us, metaverse. And what is metaverse? We've heard uh, we've heard the buzz. It's very important to start with the definition. The metaverse is a network of 3D virtual worlds of people, organizations interacting amongst themselves. So there are some platforms today that followed the concept, but they failed because they don't yet interact between themselves. They don't form a network. I, myself, Pedro, or my virtual representation, if I'm on a platform or in another, we're two different entities. So metaverse, in the future, when it achieves its purpose, will be a unique metaverse. Additionally, to complement this definition, I don't believe it will be only the virtual world. There are several technologies such as digital twins, digital women's, blockchain, and others that will complement this definition and define what will be metaverse. But don't worry, these definitions are normal in emerging techs. So 30 years ago, internet went through the same, and we know what it is today. Metaverse is at an infancy stage and requires quite a lot of definition. Hype cycle is as such until it achieves the productivity plateau. We've already heard not we've heard that metaverse would pass away. Mark Twain was speaking about his death. If we can compare this, in 25% of people will spend at least 1 hour per day in the metaverse. It's a number that's easily believable because younger generations have already been doing it so today. They use their virtual reality goggles, and also they're suffering. They're I don't believe that we will have those intrusive like goggles. So these technology devices are evolving to become less intrusive and to guarantee immersive or mixed experiences. More importantly than definitions, we need to understand how metaverse will impact our life, and it will impact in a positive way. Let me give you some examples for different sectors of activity, starting with education. More obvious in the academic world, I was able to study in Harvard or any other university in the world. Easier access to education. In the entrepreneurial sector, entity data has been working on different concepts, normally in maintenance training in a high-risk scenario whose object has a high cost. Two examples, one an oil turbine and another an airplane. A wind turbine, sorry. So there's the industrial metaverse. The industrial sector has leveraged the digital twin concept. What is a digital twin? It's virtual simulation of a real object, replicating the behavior of that object to the virtual world. Easy to understand that in a production line, distribution one, that we're able to have that line mapped virtually, either for monitoring, identifying failure, and more interestingly, to be able to perform simulation in that assembly line to optimize, to obtain efficiency gains. A similar concept we can transport to the health sector. Imagine simulation is a human body. In the same way, I'm able to provide training for a surgery on a human body, and more interestingly, able to simulate a therapy or some treatment to understand the human body's evolution. So, going back to different subjects, online medicine, most likely we started using it more after the pandemic, will benefit from a more immersive experience when contacting doctors. Media and entertainment are other areas that have created immersive experiences, and this is a new way to produce content. This example before you is that of Disney. It's a video where the person can move and see the making of the way the movie was made. And also in culture and entertainment becoming more accessible. For instance, I can be in Lisbon taking a tour of a museum with a more immersive experience, and or view a concert, or to be or be in a concert. An example that happened to me fortnight, there was a where Travis Scott sang. There were 12 million people assisting, and after Travis Scott, other artists did the same. My son Francisco, amid the pandemic, asked me to see a concert. He wanted to go to a concert fortnight Travis Scott. I did not know it was. I didn't know it was possible to give such concert. But Francisco did not know who Travis Scott was. He was using the platform, and because his friends were there, that is, and 12 million friends as well on Fortnite. This is very important.
Estão a beneficiar.
Because brands are benefiting from these platforms to do marketing. For example, there's a Small Compal, a Portuguese brand, a soft drink, that is in a video game, GTA, because it realized the potential of these platforms. So there are inspiring ideas, and Metaverse will continue to develop. And the main takeaway of this session is your own vision of Metaverse. Try it, test it in your organization, see what works, doesn't work, and ask NPD Data to help if needed, and follow the evolution of Metaverse. Otherwise, you'll miss the train. Thank you.
Vamos então entrar neste.
We will now join this fascinating world, which is Metaverse. For our next conversation, we have on video called Kavya Perlman, CEO of XRSY, Extended Reality Security Initiative, and next to me, Luís Bravo Martins, the Metaverse Section President in APDC. Let me start with Kavya.
Thank you so much.
Let me start by tell you that your company works on security and privacy in Metaverse. How is this done?
So it's an interesting question because it's a complex one.
I know.
We are a nonprofit, a standard developing organization. And the best way to explain this is really to kind of walk you through the journey that we went through since 2019. That's when we formulated ourselves. So a little bit of a background I have to present is I was over at Facebook in 2016 during US presidential election time. I was doing third-party security. And I sort of realized when you potentially ignore the risks of technology, it could even undermine democracies. Thereafter, I became the head of security at the oldest existing virtual world. Some of you may have heard of Second Life at Linden Lab. And that's where I saw this sort of like a prototypical metaverse where people literally live their lives online in the forms of virtual worlds, carried out virtual economies, etc. So once I left the lab, it became clear to me what future could look like. And of course, dealing with all sorts of compliance, privacy, safety, security issues, I got busy gathering like-minded people to focus on these emerging technologies and the issues that it brought along, especially with a specific focus on immersive technologies, which is now we're talking about, is the evolution of the metaverse. And so it is a complex issue to keep up with so many emergences. And on top of that, to keep a track on what all types of risks, there is a plethora of risks. So I remember when we first started with like, hey, what exactly is XR? You know, one of the basic technologies. So starting with just understanding the taxonomy, the terminologies. I mean, currently, we recently put out what is the standard definition of the metaverse, because we need to be able to speak a common language if we're going to address these risks. So fast forward, you know, our mission has evolved into several areas like diversity and inclusion. So we have a Cyber XR coalition. There has to be a specific focus on children's safety. So there is a child safety initiative. We have even a medical XR council. So several of the neuroscientists, surgeons, cybersecurity professionals, we assemble them from all over the world. We have over 200 advisors now, including one of the presidents of the Metaverse section at APDC, Louis, who is I have the privilege to share the stage with. But yeah, this is, you know, become almost like it's become a global movement. And now we are even in Europe, in Italy, and pretty soon in Australia, and just, you know, making sure that governments, individuals, big tech organizations understand the privacy implications, keep up with the unintended consequences. So individuals, societies, and our ecosystems are protected from this convergence.
Let's also hear Luis, on behalf of a safer, more democratic and inclusive metaverse, APDC established an important partnership. Tell us more.
Well, actually, that's, well, first of all, good afternoon to you all, and good afternoon to you also to you, and to you, Kavya. So that's actually what we're going to announce today. So maybe to give you then a bit more of a context, today I know that all of us are very much in touch with change. So change is pretty much all around us, much more now than it was like 5 years ago, right? We endured a pandemic. Right now, the geopolitical scenario is a bit different. We don't know how things are going to evolve. And then suddenly, like, I don't know, 9 months ago, we started hearing about AI services that are deeming some professional activities obsolete and changing completely, disrupting several others. So now the issue is that we have then technological development that is, and disruption that is now speeding up, accelerating. We have so many different great opportunities to leverage, not just from each one of these technologies, but also from the convergence of these technologies that will fundamentally create this vision of the metaverse, of a 3D real-time web. But more than that, we should realize that we as individuals and organizations, we are test driving or beta testing these technologies without any notion of what is a responsible usage. So because we do not know, actually no one knows what the impact of these technologies is going to be at an individual and social level. So that's why it's so important to grasp this notion and to embrace that this is our actual reality, but we need to take heed on these. We need to act. We need to fundamentally start to try and define and trying to localize all these opportunities for organizations inside APDC, but that's at the same time also the challenges in setting up these technologies. So that's why it's so interesting, and it's also a privilege for me to announce this partnership between XRSI and APDC, in the sense that we now have the possibility to tap into a network of worldwide experts in safety and privacy in immersive worlds that can help us navigate this world or these huge number of possibilities that this path into the metaverse brings, but at the same time, doing it in a responsible way.
Kavya, let's go by parts. Security and privacy. What has been done so far, and what remains to be done?
So sitting out here in the US, it's easy to admit that we haven't done much when it comes to privacy. But this is why, our movement has to be global. If the United States can't wrap the federal privacy laws around and can't put it out there, we need to go to Europe, where we can create a baseline. So there are some really good developments that are happening around the world. We are seeing lots of different governments paying attention and even asking for a call for consultation. We've been working with European Commission directly for over a year now for their Metaverse initiative. We have worked with several governments in the Middle East, entities like United Nations, etc. So there are some really, really good things that are developing. Just last week, even at the White House, there were several of the efforts talking about all kinds of emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, and potentially even putting a Bill of Rights. So there are some optimistic developments. However, what we are confronting now, what's really kind of hard to do, it points to something like I call it, and it's not my term, but it's a very research term called Collingridge dilemma, and that's where our work sort of becomes very, very significant, because Collingridge dilemma is essentially a double-bind problem. It indicates that we have an information problem where the impact cannot be easily predicted until the technology is fully developed and widely used. But then we have a power problem, kind of like Luis was indicating with artificial intelligence, is the control and change is very difficult when the technology is fully entrenched with society. So now we kind of sit in this sort of sweet spot as XRSI, as this collective human intelligence of several of the experts from so many different domains, to try to anticipate, to try to research and document, as well as inform at the same time all the stakeholders around the world. So this is a very unique way to do this. We even hack some of these technologies back in 2019. Some of our senior advisors discovered novel cyber attacks in virtual reality, where you could move a subject without their permission. So all in all, the one last bit that I want to mention is my background is cybersecurity. I have a master's in cybersecurity. I really focus on that domain with passion. So what I feel is traditionally the internet has been the attack surface, as we call it, the cyber attacks have been limited to networks, nodes, and servers. And now this attack surface, you think about brain-computer interfaces and even just, being able to move a subject in the surrounding, the attack surface is expanding to our brain and to our surroundings. So that's kind of what is unique, is now you have a human in the loop and a society in the loop, for which we really need to get ready for.
Luis, early this year, Facebook lost $4 billion with Metaverse. Still, Mark Zuckerberg wants to continue to invest. Why?
That's probably a question better asked to Meta and Mark Zuckerberg. What I do believe is that he, as several others, see that this new iteration of the web is going to happen, and he wants to clearly have a stake in it. And that's fair. He's on the market, and he's a very big player. However, it's also really interesting to realize that Facebook, Meta, has a business, as so many others, that is based on data collection. Now, we should be aware that for instance, immersive technologies, we are talking about a much bigger amount of data being collected by each or of each individual user. So for instance, I think it was a study done 2 months ago from the University of Berkeley that pinpointed or that allowed a team of scientists to identify by name the users of a specific 96%, sorry, of the users of a video game, a VR video game, just by analyzing 3 of their body motion points, just that. So, and this is 96% of the people being identified by name. We should be aware that by using these technologies, of course, there are several, there is again, a large amount of data. We're talking about gesture, we're talking about voice, we're talking about the color of my skin, how long are my fingers, all of that can be captured. And that's why it's also so important to allow for users to consent, to inform users, but more than that, to create, for organizations to create also solutions that can reap the opportunities, because there are a lot of great opportunities to improve our lives.
Tell us more about what are the opportunities and the risks, as you said right now.
Yeah, well, again, I see the possibilities of having a web that is 3D, that is in real time, that is spatialized as the cornerstone of us being able to edit the world. And by doing that, we can be able to provide whatever is needed, for instance, for a classroom. We can provide, yes. And the cool thing now, resource-wise, of course. Now, the cool thing is that just the availability of today, and I saw this at a classroom exactly, of the kids just putting in the VR glasses and seeing an historical scene, delving into it, living it together. This is a very important part, because they're not like closed in that scene. No, they're hearing all the others, right? Living it together and then taking off and talking about it makes us realize one thing. So it's not something, it's not technology. That experience created memories. They have shared memories. They are going afterwards, like 10 years after, they are going to talk how they were sitting in that classroom, how they were talking to each other. Then they put on some glasses. Then they had an experience that they shared, which was not that usual. And then they took it out, and the memory of them being at Ausbegotte battle or whatever was still there.
It's like the power of an example, but much stronger when you're learning something.
So that's the issue, because talking about specifically immersive technologies, we're talking about something that delves not just with our cognitive abilities, but also with our senses. And that's powerful. But again, the metaverse is not just immersive technologies. Then you have like AI. You're seeing what AI is doing. It's like right now, the same courses, university courses, marketing courses, design courses that started in the beginning this September, if they have the same course description, so last September, this September, here in 2023, they will be already obsolete. Because you need to integrate this huge tool that is right now disrupting the market. So just being able to reap that, but at the same time also taking into account the challenges, because again, everything that we're doing, we are, as Kavya was saying, we are not totally able to understand the effects. Not even OpenAI, OpenAI's founder actually said that, Sam Altman. We are not able right now to understand the full effect and the full impact that this is going to have on society. So for all intents and purposes, we are beta testing society, right? And society change. Now, and we accept that. And we need to be conscious of that, because that's the only way we can then take a step into doing it responsibly, right? And to doing it responsibly, there are some methods, there are some techniques And there are some, well, this huge team of experts that has all the necessary experience to, well, help us on that. And that's, well, again, XRSI.
Kavya, why can metaverse be a danger to democracy?
Wow, super interesting question. I'm going to quickly touch on the risk that, Luis just mentioned about the identity, and then I'm going to go over to the democracy danger, because I've seen it firsthand, as I mentioned, back at Facebook in 2016. So quickly, about that example of the ability to identify a human being in sub 10 seconds accurately, that poses such dangers to minorities, especially, we've seen the examples of genocide almost happening in Myanmar. So this kind of a, threat to identity as soon as you engage with metaverse is very real. And we need to be cognizant of that. But then the good part, at XRSI, we are actually developing augmented reality authentication protocol for police public safety officers in the United States. Why is that good? Because imagine a firefighter sort of using these glasses to navigate his way across this smoke-filled room. They don't have time to authenticate and put the password and do the dance. In sub 10 seconds, they can be authenticated. They're the right people. Police in critical situations where there is life and death situation. So the use cases of these ability to identify are really tremendous and very useful. But in the wrong hands, imagine a government misusing the very identity to cause genocide, to target a type of minorities. I mean, I am a minority myself. This is very personal to me, and it's very concerning. So now let's go to how it plays out, how it poses the danger to democracy. So in 2016, Cambridge Analytica used just about 5,000 data points on each American. Now, with the virtual reality itself, this is, I'm citing a research from Stanford University in 2019. They established within 20 minutes of experience in virtual reality, you can gather over 2 million unique body recordings about a person. Now, compare that 5,000 data points, over 2 million body recordings, and the amount of data points with all sorts of convergence of technologies. Now, here is why it's even more dangerous. In fact, I'm going to be very closely watching 2024 election, because now we have yet another technology that is coming into the mix is generative AI. Just about a couple of weeks ago, Republican National Committee unleashed a sort of like an attack ad on the Democratic Party, which was literally labeled as generated by artificial intelligence. Now, here's why it's dangerous. We're already aware that political parties can now target constituents. If we have the mix of generative AI, this can actually hyper target people. And what, one of our advisors talks about this very extensively, calls it the AI manipulation problem, and really manipulate individuals to the extent that they would change their mind, but not just change their mind about voting. They'll start to view the world in a different way. We've seen examples of it happen when people are polarized to the left, to right, and then, politicians kind of exploit that by delivering a certain type of message that either provokes them, it makes them, kind of angry or something. So this is the threat to democracy, that with generative AI, with all this convergence, we would be able to deliver kind of like I would almost say, propaganda, misinformation, deep fake of a very visceral nature that makes you feel, oh my God, how dare they? And it moves you internally because these technologies are so powerful. And that's something we're going to be closely watching out here in the US. This is a very real threat to democracy.
Luis, you and Claudia are much closer to metaverse than I am, or most of the people. How and when will this change?
I think it's already changing. So it's when we talk about the metaverse, and everyone says, "Oh, but when is it going to arrive?" And we're down this path.
We are living it.
We are right now going towards it, but try to remember, like for instance, I had this chat with a friend of mine last week, and we were talking, so when did we start using emojis? When? And I was like 2016, maybe 2015, and it seems like we did it always, right? But same with memes. Like, how on earth right now we all understand what a meme is and how we can communicate with memes. So
Maybe we don't give a name to that, the name, the metaverse.
oh, we do. Right now we call it smartphone. And we, through the smartphone, access a lot of services, and we think that through the smartphone we can sort out all of this. So we have photos, we have videos, but at the same time, right now, we don't realize, for instance, that to unlock some of our smartphones, we are providing our face to Apple, for instance. We are giving our face, right? So, and this is kind of interesting because we do it so candidly, we do it so innocently. But at the same time, for instance, and I just shared it was a patent, I think, from 2020 that allowed for a service to be created that leveraged all this data, so the data from our behaviors and the data from our face, to create, digital beings of us that are then supported by AI that allow you, when we pass away, for our parents to keep on talking to us. Now, this is, again, a patent from 2020. So I'm not talking about the future, I'm talking about the past, right?
That's scary.
It is, right? But now that's the issue. It doesn't need to be scary because we are still much at time to talk about this, to discuss, and to build things towards what we want. Now the issue is exactly that. If we don't do anything, well, someone else will. So maybe it's a good idea for us to start doing it.
Kavya, what a day in a life would be in metaverse? There's an answer for this?
Oh, absolutely, there is an answer. So it depends on who you ask. If you asked me in 2018, as I was the head of security for this virtual world that's still evolving, I would say I spent about almost 8 hours there. But it was still a narrow, focused virtual world, not interconnected with other worlds, not interconnected with augmented reality type of glasses where I could say, hey, Siri, like, I leave my office, hey, Siri, order me an Uber. Don't Siri, okay? So this is the kind of thing that I think a typical day in the metaverse isn't too different from what we are doing with these type of devices. The difference really is we're moving in and out so seamlessly between the virtual worlds, the augmented, the holographic stuff, basically an immersive environment to the real environment. And that's when, you'll know when we go from a heads down culture to a heads up culture. And I have to say, I really look forward to it because the sense of safety, the awareness of our surrounding as a woman, that's really valuable. Because right now we're just kind of zombieing out and putting all of our attention into this squared glass, and we're sort of forgetting about it. So this is the merging of physical and virtual, which is remarkable. Now we are almost using this technology, especially when it becomes seamless, to get directions. Ask a surgeon. That some of the surgeons, I would mention Dr. Shafi Ahmed, who performed coordinated assisted surgery with using augmented reality glasses in 2021. So for them, this is already a kind of reality, but we're almost at a place where, in the internet era, where the websites were popping up, and the local area networks were there. Some of the people had metropolitan area network, but the web wasn't truly connected. And over the course of time, all these words, all these augmentation, holographic, assisted surgery, etc., they're going to start to interconnect. And that's when we have arrived at the next iteration of the internet. And we'll be able to seamlessly experience that. And I really do look forward to it too.
Thank you so much, Kavya. It was a pleasure. Luís, muito obrigada. Thank you so much por este debate. Ficamos.
With this debate, we know more about this complex, fascinating world, but also a scary world, this metaverse world. And now the state of the nation of media.